Imagine a world ruled by kings and tyrants. Power rests in the hands of a few. The many have no voice. This was the reality for most ancient civilizations. But in a small corner of the world, a radical idea took root: democracy. Athens, a vibrant city-state in ancient Greece, dared to experiment with a new form of government. This was a government of the people, by the people, for the people. In Athens, citizens gathered to debate and vote on laws. They served on juries. They held office. This was direct democracy, raw and unfiltered. Every citizen had a say in shaping their society. It was a radical departure from the norm. Athens became a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of collective governance. But even in this early experiment, cracks began to appear, and a young philosopher named Aristotle took notice. Athenian democracy, though revolutionary, was far from perfect. It was a system built for a small city-state, not a vast empire. Only male citizens, a fraction of the population, could participate. Women, slaves, and foreigners were excluded. Yet, within these limitations, Athenian democracy shone brightly. The assembly, open to all citizens, was the heart of Athenian democracy. Here laws were proposed, debated, and voted on. The assembly was a cacophony of voices, a testament to free speech and open dialogue. Justice was served by juries composed of ordinary citizens. These juries, often hundreds strong, ensured that no single individual held undue influence. The Athenian system, though imperfect, provided a model for future generations. However, Aristotle, a keen observer of human nature, saw potential pitfalls lurking beneath the surface. Aristotle, born into this world of Athenian democracy, witnessed its strengths and weaknesses firsthand. He saw the passion, the engagement, the collective spirit of his fellow citizens. But he also saw the potential for chaos, for manipulation, for the very ideals of democracy to be turned against it. Aristotle observed that the Athenian assembly, though vibrant and engaging, was susceptible to emotional appeals and demagoguery. Skilled orators could sway the crowd with fiery rhetoric, often at the expense of reason and logic. Decisions made in the heat of the moment, Aristotle feared, could lead to rash judgments and instability. He also worried about the tyranny of the majority. What would happen if the majority, however well-intentioned, voted against the interests of the minority? These concerns led Aristotle on a quest to understand the nature of government, a quest that would culminate in his groundbreaking work, Politics. Section 4. Aristotle's classification of governments: a search for stability. Aristotle, ever the meticulous philosopher, embarked on a comprehensive study of government. He examined numerous constitutions, analyzing their strengths and weaknesses. From his observations, he developed a classification system, identifying 6 basic forms of government. These forms were defined by who ruled and in whose interest they governed. On one end of the spectrum were the virtuous forms: monarchy, aristocracy, and polity. These forms, Aristotle argued, aimed at the common good, with rulers prioritizing the well-being of all. On the other end were the corrupt forms: tyranny, oligarchy, and democracy. In these forms, rulers prioritized their own interests above the common good. While Aristotle acknowledged the potential benefits of democracy, he feared it could easily degenerate into its corrupt form, driven by the self-interest of the masses. Section 5. The tyranny of the majority: Aristotle's fear for democracy. Aristotle's greatest fear for democracy was its susceptibility to what he called tyranny of the majority. He believed that in a democracy where the poor and uneducated outnumbered the wealthy and educated, the majority could use their voting power to redistribute wealth and property in their favor. This, Aristotle argued, would create a climate of instability and injustice, ultimately undermining the very foundations of the state. He also worried about the rise of demagogues, charismatic leaders who could manipulate the emotions of the masses for their own gain. Demagogues, Aristotle observed, often appealed to people's fears and prejudices, exploiting their lack of education and critical thinking skills. This manipulation, he feared, could lead to poor decision-making and ultimately the erosion of democratic values. Section 6. Echoes of Ancient Warnings, Populism and Its Perils. Centuries after Aristotle's time, his warnings about the fragility of democracy continue to resonate. In our modern world, we witness the rise of populism, a political approach that often relies on emotional appeals, simplistic solutions, and the demonization of opponents. Populist leaders, much like the demagogues Aristotle feared, often exploit people's anxieties and frustrations, offering easy answers to complex problems. They pit the people against the elite, fueling a climate of division and distrust. This erosion of trust in institutions and expertise can have dangerous consequences for democracy, as seen in the rise of misinformation and the polarization of political discourse. Aristotle's warnings about the dangers of emotional decision-making and the manipulation of the masses are as relevant today as they were in ancient Athens. Section 7. Aristotle's Enduring Legacy, a Timeless Warning. Aristotle's insights into the nature of democracy, its strengths and its vulnerabilities remain as relevant today as they were over 2,000 years ago. His fear of the tyranny of the majority, of the rise of demagogues, and of the dangers of emotional decision-making serve as a stark reminder of the fragility of democratic institutions. Democracy, as Aristotle understood it, requires more than just the right to vote. It requires an informed and engaged citizenry, capable of critical thinking and reasoned debate. It requires a commitment to the common good, a willingness to look beyond self-interest and consider the needs of all. As we navigate the complexities of the 21st century, Aristotle's warnings serve as a timeless reminder of the importance of safeguarding our democratic values. We must remain vigilant against the forces that seek to divide us, to manipulate our fears, and to undermine the very foundations of our free societies. For the sake of our future, we must heed the lessons of the past and strive to create a world where democracy, in its truest and most virtuous form, can flourish. One of the greatest tragedies of democracy was the trial of Socrates. The people of Athens, angry at his teachings, voted to put him to death. Not because he broke any laws, but because they found him inconvenient. This, Aristotle believed, was the true danger of democracy. The people could be as tyrannical as a dictator. Aristotle realized that democracy could be just as dangerous as tyranny. In the end, it was not reason that ruled, but passion. The most dangerous product of democracy, according to Aristotle, was the demagogue, a leader who rose to power by telling the people what they wanted to hear, not through wisdom, but through manipulation. Sound familiar? Today, we still see the rise of demagogues. In an age of social media, misinformation spreads faster than truth, and leaders gain power by exploiting emotions. Aristotle's fears are more relevant than ever. Aristotle did not want to destroy democracy. He wanted to improve it. He believed that a balanced system, a mix of democracy and aristocracy, could create stability. So, can we apply his ideas today? Aristotle once wrote, "The greatest of all virtues is practical wisdom. Democracy is a tool, and like any tool, it must be used wisely. If not, history has shown us that democracy can destroy itself. So the question remains, will we learn from the past, or are we doomed to repeat it?"